Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar about the future of work in a deskless society. My name is Christopher and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Oslo Business Forum, and I have the honor to welcome you here today for this week's webinar. This webinar is a part of a webinar series of 7 webinars in total, which we're going to organize the upcoming weeks. So if you'd like to attend these webinars, I strongly recommend you to go into our homepages and see the other webinars that we're hosting in the upcoming weeks. All these webinars are tightly connected to our big annual business conference, which is taking place the 24th of September with Oslo Business Forum 2020. But here we are today. We are going to learn more about the future of work, and there's no better to teach us more about that than our presenters here today. So please welcome Erik Haugen and John Olve Andersen.
Thank you, Christopher, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at Oslo Business Forum. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Erik Haugen. I am the Chief Commercial Officer at Techstep.
And I'm John Andersen, Director of Innovation.
And together, we're going to spend the next 30-40 minutes or so showing to you why it's about time we start using our smartphones for something smart. Work is definitely going mobile. All research and data is pointing towards it. And most of you, at least of those working in an office, would have felt this new way of working in the last 6-7 months. But the interesting thing is that although we've been very well adapted to this new technology and this new way of working, the technology is actually not that new. Laptops, broadband at home, VPN, Teams is not new technology. Teams used to be called Link or even Skype before that. So we argue that now is the time to take this to the next level. Not just talk about how we can make data available for laptops, but how we can make it available for mobile devices so we can truly work wherever and whenever. And this is about taking information, the information flow, and combining it with mobility, accessibility, the availability of taking data from the cloud and use it wherever and whenever. The interesting thing is that this is not just about us office workers. This is about all those people who don't have an office, don't work at a desk, or at least don't have to work at a desk. Those people who treat patients, fly planes, drive trucks, build, mend, fix things, they don't need to be at a desk, shouldn't have to be at a desk. So this new mobile revolution is about availability of the data for them with apps and functionalities so that they can take part and work smarter wherever and whenever they want to. So who are we? Techstep is a Nordic IT company headquartered in Oslo, listed on the Oslo Stock Exchange and with offices in Denmark, Sweden and Norway. We're about 300 people focused on managed mobility services. We provide hardware and software, security, financing and consultancy to make sure that leading enterprises and public services in the Scandinavian region can use mobile tools to enhance their productivity and their profits. And why is this so necessary? Why is this so in the moment? This crest of a wave, which has started in the US and certain parts of Asia, is now really coming to wash over Europe. And you need to pay attention to this. Because if we can allow people to have access to the important data that that the business is creating, so that people don't have to walk to a desk to do what we can call administration tasks. The point here is that admin is necessary, but let's make it simple. Let's make admin something that we do when we should do it and not something that we have to walk over to a desk to do. It's much smarter if a nurse can spend time with the patients than at the desk typing in patient information and so on. So the important thing is to think mobile first when you develop the applications and usability for your workforce. We like to point to Storebrand, one of the largest Norwegian insurance companies. You know what they say? They say, make Monday feel a little bit more like Sunday. And that is the whole reason behind Techstep. To be able to take the information and the workflows and the way we work or act when we are in our private lives. You know, we use our smartphones for all sorts of smart, clever things. Why shouldn't we do it at work? And that is the reason that we created Techstep in the first place. So enterprises can really take this technology and create something that is productive, effective, and they will have more happy clients, happier employees, and their profits will also improve. So let's look at some of the data backing up all this. I mentioned earlier the deskless worker, and the interesting thing here is that 80% of the global workforce is actually defined as deskless. Now the number in the Nordic region is smaller, but is still significant. And again, this is an area where lack of investment has been the story for the last few years. What is expected in this field is an increase of 31% in terms of IT spend on mobility and this deskless worker. Now you need to pay attention to that, because if you are in a business where a predominant amount of your colleagues actually work outside the office, that's you. And if it's not you, then it's your competitors. So be sure that you know what's going on around you, because this wave is cresting. It started in the US and is now washing over Europe. On the right-hand side, on the pie chart, I'd like to point out three things. Interestingly enough, not all companies are doing these investments because they want to have cost efficiencies. Yes, there are a number of cost efficiencies to be had, but the most interesting thing is that they do this because of productivity and employee happiness. The logic behind that being that having the right tools empower employees to perform better, be more effective, and that translates to a better customer experience. Better customer experience equals more sales, more business. Quite logic. I'm sure you agree. So who are these deskless workers? They are the nurse. With access to an electronic patient journal, let's say on an iPad, a nurse can spend 10,000 steps less per day, because he or she doesn't have to run between patients' beds and workstations to enter or retrieve data. Those 10,000 steps can be translated into 30 minutes more patient time. And that's where we want the nurses to spend their time, on care. In the middle, you see a bus driver from Vår. Vår is using tablets with applications like e-learning, timesheets and so on, as well as a way of monitoring how they drive, eco-friendly and safe, to not only win tenders, but to run their business more efficiently when they won them. So they're basically doing this out of a business purpose of earning more because of investment in technology. And by the way, the bus drivers are very happy as well. On your right, you see probably the best return on investment case that we can talk to you about. When Equinor was launching Johan Sverdrup back in October 2019, they used iPads in the rollout and the training, in basically getting the platform ready. And because they did this in a very advanced, very, very, very well thought out way, they managed to get the platform online several weeks ahead of schedule. And with 9 million kroner of profit every day on such a platform, you see that the investment makes a lot of sense. So this is about making sure that you can work at a desk because you choose to, not because you have to. We have to allow people to have access to data wherever and whenever they work, so that they can interact better and they can collaborate properly with each other. And it's not just the deskless workers, it is also us, the office people, to make sure that we can work and be fluent and have the freedom to be productive at the cabin or on the train or at the coffee shop or wherever we might work between the home office and our desk in the office. And the reasons for doing that is that A, you will initially see an ability to reduce costs and increase productivity. That's pretty basic actually. The next step is where it gets really interesting, because you see a transformation within the employees. They start to get more time, they're more productive, and what would they spend the time on? Would they create something? Would they spend more time with the customer or with the patient, etc.? And when you do this engagement with the employees, you will eventually get a real business benefit from it, because happier employees means happier customers, means more sales, means more productivity, means more profits. The good thing also is that now that this is becoming mature, in a sense, we're still in an early phase, because some companies have started really to start using this, like Equinor and Vy and others. But there are many of you who haven't really started yet. You just scratched the surface, and perhaps you've deployed some apps. Perhaps you don't even deploy apps. Maybe you just have mail on your phones, and most of your staff don't have it. The point being that this is actually coming of age now. And for those of you who respond to the way of thinking and the skills of Gartner, they have now come with their own quadrant for managed mobility services. They come with a definition and what you should be looking at, how you should evaluate the companies that you want to work with, how you want to move from stage A to B to C and so on. They have now a blueprint for you. So check it out. If you don't already know Gartner, check them out and find managed mobility services. We're quite thrilled with it, because now they've defined what we've been predicting and doing since way back in 2014, 15 and 16. So there is a clear momentum. And there are three things that I want to enhance. One is that we see the amount of B2B subscriptions increasing. That means that there are companies out there who are adding more devices to their existing fleet of equipment. Maybe that's an iPad to a worker who used to have a phone, or maybe there are more people who are getting a phone, or maybe there are IoT units or wearables. They are also coming, and I know John will talk a little bit more about that later on. Secondly, we have 5G. And 5G, you may think, oh, just another technology. Yes, but it's a great technology. And it will allow for data transfers which you would not believe the speed. And you may think that 5G is great for the consumer, but it's actually even more interesting for the business. Thirdly, what we're seeing is an increased interest from the boardroom in terms of finding this perfect spot between the availability of data and the flow of data. So having it available in the cloud is great, but you have to have a point where you can access it. Not just a laptop, not just a desktop, but in your hand, wherever you work. And that is the momentum that we are building on and that you need to pay attention to. Because as I said, the increase in spend expected here is tremendous. And Gartner, which I mentioned earlier, is expecting that 18% of all money spent on IT in the years to come will be on managed mobility services. 18%. So again, if it's not you, well, then it's your competitor, possibly. I will now hand over to my colleague John, who's going to take you to the next step. Where do I go from here? What are the possibilities? What are the steps? He's going to give you some handy tools. He's going to show you what to do and what not to do. And he's going to give you some examples of what other companies have done. And perhaps in that inspire you to dig a little bit deeper into what managed mobility services can do for your business.
Thank you, Erik. Yes, I'm looking forward to this part of the sessions, and I'm going to give you a lot of examples from a period, 8 to 10 years back, running more than 70 large customers and public sectors into the mobility future. So let's go mobile. What does that mean? Okay, the closest you can get is to a Leatherman, right? Use it for every purposes. The mobile devices is better than Leatherman. You can use this on offices, and you can use it as a deskless end user focus, because you already registered all your stuff in your lives in these devices. So why don't use them directly in the enterprises that you're part of? There are so many different examples to this one. First of all, it's, what really drives you is the way it's so simple to use. And you can get it with you everywhere you are. So for us, our focus is, for the mobility side, is to get rid of the keyboard as the first part, right? To use the phone as it's an ordinary phone, since it's been, for 100 years, and to expand it from there. So of course it's important for us, to get hold of that device and to push forward applications and configurations that you need to do a simple work at, wherever you are. It's not a job, wherever you are. And of course, part of that, PCs and Macs and also tablets is of course also mobile devices. But first of all, think of mobility as part of the phone, the smartphones, the Android, the iPhone you love, as the first bottom structure to build stuff on top of that. And of course, wearables is going to be really huge in this situation. So let's look into other examples. You've been investing heavily in the first matchstick that you see here on the left side of me. You've been heavily invested in for several millions, even dollars, to some extent dollars for you, just to get the users out in the cloud so they are able to work wherever they want. And some is also very pleased, to be using Teams and Zoom as the really top-notch digital workplace. And that's good because of what happened the last month. But the thing is that we need to get really the end users to take the next step. The huge step the last 4 to 5 months is actually that they turn on the cam. I've never seen so many light bulbs in the roof or seen people in the background. People are really, into it and really want to be part of the camera and use the camera. And that's in a way, ordinary meetings have been going so far up since everyone is using the same camera. So this is the light match that, shows that they are really into it and want to do the digital drive. So what we want is to let the end users instead go in saying, we need something more. We need even better end users experience that we have today. Not just the PCs, the keyboards. We want a phone which we can speak to, we can swipe, we can use the camera, we can use the AR functionalities, and we can access whatever we want, wherever we are, directly from the phone or connected to other stuffs. And what we're seeing for the larger customers that done this and started in the correct end, with the HR, with communications, with executives, with business managers, in combinations with IT, they are able to put fire into all the employees. And that's another story to come. All data is probably more or less accessible as it is today. But it's built for 24 inches or 32 inches large screens with a keyboard. We want the user interface to be smaller, to be swipeable, to be addable through voice, controllable by voice. And of course for the camera to be used for pictures or for videos or for the AR functionalities. And of course also add with variables on top of that, both for hearing or for other stuff, for sensors that you also add into the area that you move into as an employee intern, for instance, a retail store. So for us, it's important to build or to work tightly together with app developers to build really great user interfaces. Web is not enough. It's good enough for every third week, but it's not good enough for 10 times a day. You need to build a user interface built for these small devices. And what's happening then? When you move from a 24 inches large screen with keyboard and into small devices with all these sensors into it, well, you need to boost the services in the cloud. And you actually have to have new features. And therefore, mobility is really driving off a lot of innovations within the cloud services in the year to come. And with the networks, Erik mentioned 5G. This is the first generation actually for enterprises, for the public sector. This is the first one. I've been here since the 2G and working on these mobility situations. So if we combine these networks elements, we combine the applications, And we integrated with the customers that the mobile devices is so close to heart that they know all the menus, they know all the features in it. You don't have to train them anymore, right? The only thing is get rid of the really terrible stuff about passwords. And all these applications are, and also the OS that are in today, is able to build in with single sign-on. And what we're talking about is, one-time login, and every of these enterprise apps that you're using, public or designed just for your office, would, be there forever. You don't have to type in another password, unless you change the phone, of course, or the OS. Then you need to log in again. So, what's the situation? Okay, it's important for us to say, okay, there's a lot of change going on. Please don't go back and, have a sleep and, try to forget everything we talked about. It's not gone to tomorrow. As Bill Gates says, the change will occur in the next 2 years is underestimated. The change that will occur in the next 10 years. Don't let yourself be lulled into inactions. And that's the difference between the customers that's really mature for this one, for this travel, and for the ones who understand that we need to change. Looking into that one, we had 8 bullets. We need to build trust for the employees. That's the first thing a lot of customers is just forgetting about. Everyone jumps into point number 4. What kind of tech environment are we putting together here? That's not interesting. The thing is to jump into the employees to see what should be the circle of trust that make them take their private phones close to heart into their office and use it for really security stuff. To be absolutely trusted for the corporate device that you're enrolled into, and build a trust in relation to them. Okay, let's talk about skeptics. The skeptics are the one who's really discussing privacy rules. What are you into? Are you able to see something that they are not interested to show you in some ways? What about 5G and the uses of the frequencies inside their phones? Do you have to use 5G phones? They could be definitely really skeptical about this one. So if you're able to handle the skeptics, you got friends forever. And then they will be your huge, so to speak, ambassador for the mobility projects internally. And it's also probably some elements that you suddenly will see from HR wanting to focus on the skeptics ones. So let them in one of the first day you start the mobility projects. Then define a project management. You need to build a team of different departments, from business managers to HR to, if you have it, communications, part of the handling the PR, and also, of course, supports in the C-level, so you're able to, have the sponsors within the C-level. And IT should be part of that one, but somebody else than IT should run this project, because it's all about change management. It's all about leadership. And then for the 4th level, probably a lot of you want to start there. We will recommend that as the step number 4, maybe in parallel, to set up a tech environment so you're able to handle all the devices as part as it was for a mobile, for an ordinary PC, as it is today. But more or less, it's just to design a tech system so it's no chance that the end users, the people that want to use the device back home, don't run into problems. So it's the flexibility of using it both at work and at home that's important for the design. And that's even harder than most of the PC configurations. So again, how can we kickstart the employees? Well, it's all about hardware, right? There's going to be a large iOS launch with Apple 12, for instance, or some extent even applications that they could be really interested into. Saving them a lot of man hours. That could be really a killer also. So For us, it's important that when you establish this project management, you need to focus on the end user's experience, right? To build the target group you have to define, to build application to these environments. So the end users are feeling the difference every goddamn day. And when you've done that, you will be on top of the third month and you will be a hero in the organization. And it's gonna, it's really a kickstart when you're able to take part of these 7 bullets. And when you establish the whole organizations, and I mean, a mobility project should run for at least 80% of the employees in the organization, at least, or at least 70%, 75%. And then you should keep moving. So add in the unions, add in the end users to some of these really interesting target groups to always keep moving, adding new functionalities. Equinor did that. 5.5 years ago, they did that. Just exactly that. They launched one privacy rules for 38 countries. They are able to do and run mobility at work as a concept in every country. They got the same feeling and experience all over the world. And we are proud to say we're one of the vendors that are running these services, mobility at work concept for Equinor in all these countries. And they are so focusing in make the work mobile on apps. So they are really into several apps, both on the Johan Sverdrup that Erik talked about, but on other offices as well around the world. To some extent, understand what we can work with, it's important to understand the maturity steps. For the functional stuff, it works fine. You have to have a proven concept within procurement of hardware. And secondly, you need to have privacy rules added to that one. And that's even with hardware and with the software and the subscriptions part. When you're trying to enable, you need to add maybe even more privacy rules into the applications, because suddenly you want to track the application when it starts. You don't want to track the device, but you want to track the application because it's giving you a huge features for the end users. And then you need to enable that as part of the privacy rules stuff that you're going into. And most of the parts that are going into step 3 with contributing, you're also adding a lot of the old legacies into the mobile phones. But we're waiting for the step number 3 before we do that. And when we go into the step number 4, as an example for Equinor, for instance, you're doing the differentiation for the different target groups within organizations. If it's a deskless worker, front-end worker, if it's an office worker, or it's something else, you design it perfectly for the end users' work. And they are able to add their own money on top of the mobile phones that, for instance, is a standard within organizations, so it's suitable for them. For the 5th level, well, we haven't got any customers there yet, but we're going in that direction. It's more like choose your own device, but also choose your own application. And it's still a way to go, but we are definitely moving in that direction. So what we're trying to do is actually use 4 cornerstones of services when we look into the technical stuff. That's the mobile devices, controlling that one, doing the operational stuff with support, supporting the end users' customers, or the support at the larger customers, and also focusing on how to deploy the enterprise apps, and also make it clean. So you don't have to type in the server address or to type in the username password more than once, and God forbid, don't anymore, right? So we need to add this functionality together with a cost focus, both on the investment side or the usage side. And everything is about security, both for the private users and for the users at the office. And of course, we need to add other features into it. And most of that one is setting up a governance structure, program management, what we call it, to make this work mobile, because life is all ready. So this travel has, several customers have been doing this one, but Meny is one of the really cool one. Examples for the deskless worker. They've been putting tablets into to their shops instead of PCs. But they're also getting rid of the old phones, the cordless phones, and using smartphones instead. And finally, you know why? They have 10 smartphones in their shops. Why shouldn't they have any different apps? Because they had a lot of sensors within the shop itself. So they added functionality to that one as well. So they are really living this out completely as an endless worker, an example for that one. So how to kickstart the mobility style? Well, you should qualify and looking for the inspirations for the end users, right? The unions, to create ideas, small ideas, low-hanging fruits, look for that one. Build a structure as you will build a product or a services, if that's what you're into. Get a name on it. Set some targets, set some dates. Identify the ROIs so you're able to see what kind of cost you have and what you have within an opportunity. And of course, set a target close, 3 to 4 months ahead. So you're absolutely into what kind of targets you're going in for in the first level. And then launch with, everyone should know that you're launching a mobile solution stuff. And then again, let's move for the next level. Volvo Cars have been doing this one. They are putting into the screen saying, please, employee, you're responsible for your own digital work. If you have any applications or any browsers or web pages that could give you, an efficiency or letting the work be easier for you, please come to IT as soon as possible. We're gonna not give you bonus, but you're gonna get credentials for that one. You're gonna be, they are really interesting to it. So they built a complete platform with all the security stuff, with all the hardware, they got a control with it, and they're able to let the end users loose into the digital world. How cool is that? So to summarize it, deskless vision, you need to set one. Like for instance with Securitas, they said within 2022, 50% of all their 300,000 employees should be completely digital. How cool is that? Governance, you should settle a governance within IT, security stuff, and also how to handle the cost elements, and also around it. Focusing not on the IT stuff, but on the end users. How and why are not the end users interested in moving towards mobility? And then categorizing the different information levels. Don't focusing on what's possible on the old platforms. Focusing on what should be your sensitivity categorizing for your information that you have inside your organization. And again, target for low-hanging fruits. Target for the cost elements, so you're able to run an ROI or a return of value. And then again, first of all and last of all, run it as a change management for the executives to run, for their organization totally to run as a change management project. Yes, and to close it all, Erik.
As you can tell, we are very passionate about this, and we hope that we managed to inspire you a little bit about the business opportunities that are in managed mobility services. And if you'd like to dive deeper into this ocean of opportunities, we kindly invite you to our own event, the Mobility Forum, where we will dive into more user cases and technology. We will have interaction, and we will talk to business leaders who have invested in this and what they think about the future of work. And it's going to be an exciting day.
It is, and it's going to be online, of course.
Of course. So please join us on the 22nd of October, online for the Mobility Forum. And with that, on behalf of myself, Erik, and my colleague John, we thank you for watching and wish you all a pleasant day. Over to you, Christopher.
Thank you so much, guys, for a great presentation. It was very insightful and I learned a lot, and I hope everyone home as well learned a lot from this webinar and can use this information and this knowledge into their daily lives. In only 2 weeks' time, we are organizing the big happening of the year. And Oslo Business Forum 2020 is this year going to happen as an online event. Techstep is one of our partners, one of our premium partners for that event. And Erik is actually going into the expert studio that we are organizing at this conference. With world-class speakers, virtual networking, and an 1,800 square meter TV studio at Lillestrøm, we are going to take online events to the next level. And since you have been joining this webinar, we also want to give you a very good gift, because the ticket price for attending the online conference is 1,995 Norwegian kroner. But only today we have an early bird offer of 995 Norwegian kroner. And if you use the ticket code Techstep, it's only valid until 10 p.m. today. You get an additional 200 NOK discount, which means you can get the tickets for only 795 Norwegian kroner. If you buy more than 5 tickets, you get all the tickets for 695 Norwegian kroner. So I really hope to see you there. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much to Erik, John Olve, and the rest in Techstep. And I hope to see you at Oslo Business Forum 2020, the new normal.